Hello, and welcome to TikTok Homeschool Conference Curriculum Deep Dive. And this is Phonetic Reading with Silent Elephant E. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nina with Silent Elephant E. I'm one of the happy collaborators who created Silent Elephant E. Linda Jones is the author, and you can go to silentelephante.com and learn more about her. She's the author, and I am the editor, and together, Silent Elephant E, Phonetic Reading with Silent Elephant E, is a total reading, writing, and spelling program, preschool through high school, for all of your children, and particularly and especially your dyslexics, or any child that you have that is struggling, or one that is learning English. For those of you who are new, let me tell you a little bit about how Phonetic Reading with Silent Elephant E got its start. Linda's daughter is profoundly dyslexic. And when she was about 3 years old, she was drawing a picture of her family playing in the park, and she shared it with Linda. And Linda noticed something right away that was quite interesting, that all of the family had happy faces, big frowns. And so she started talking to her daughter about what was going on in the picture. And her daughter's telling her how they're playing in the park and everybody is happy and everything. And she realizes at that moment that her daughter's brain is seeing the smiley face this way, and that she is dyslexic. That's how it got started. At that point, she took her daughter into the bathroom, got some deep red lipstick, and together they started looking at themselves in the mirror and looking at the difference between the smile and the difference between the frown. And she had her daughter drawing with red lipstick on the mirror, looking at her face and drawing her face in a smile form. She did this day after day until her daughter's brain had developed that new neural pathway for seeing it this way and not this way. And then suddenly she knew and was always drawing smiley faces, not frowns. That was the beginning of Linda knowing that she had to research dyslexia. She had to learn everything that she possibly could about what it was and how is the best way for her to be able to support her daughter, so her daughter did not struggle in her life the way her husband had struggled in him and was continuing to struggle. My path was tandem to that, and we were teaching together in the same school, and my path was from the very beginning understanding that all of our children needed to learn everything, including reading, writing, and spelling, in the most active, total involvement way possible. That learning to read, write, and spell was all one thing, and they all had to be learning to write as they were learning to read. So spelling and writing and reading were all one thing. So when Linda started sharing her writing, Phonetic Reading with Silent Elephant with me, as she began to write the whole program, it became really a no-brainer that I stepped in and started editing and started helping her write. So we are so happy to have for you Phonetic Reading with Silent Elephant E, which is again, total reading, writing, and spelling program, preschool through high school, for all of our children, but especially for our dyslexics. Another absolutely fun thing about the last 20 years is that there has been this wonderful research in learning, and they have been using MRIs to watch how the energy progresses through our brain as we learn something. In other words, as our brain is creating new neural pathways for that energy to travel through, they can see how it travels. So they were looking at how our brain learns, just total learning, in particular how our brain learns to read, and then in particular to that, how our dyslexics learn to read, or what is happening when our dyslexics are learning to read. This is really exciting because what they were finding was that when our dyslexics are looking at words on a page and those words are going into the eyes, into that electrical energy that is sent back into the brain. And when that image is sent to the letterbox in the brain, and I have lots of videos that talk about this, but that's sent to that letterbox in the brain, our dyslexics was where it stopped. The energy stopped there. And this makes so much sense when we understand that our dyslexics are those broad, three-dimensional thinkers, and their brain is always processing things three-dimensionally. So it makes sense that when that linear word, the cat on the mat, went to the letterbox, it did not process it linearly. Those words, letters, could be mixed up all over the place. They could be partially in line linearly, or they may be moving around. All those things happen to all different dyslexics. One of the things that they also learned in this research was that the best way to activate our dyslexics' three-dimensional broad-thinking brains to learn to read, to learn to process things linearly, was through total active involvement. In other words, I like to think about it as three-dimensional involvement in learning to read and write and spell. So everything needed to be processed through all of the senses, through art, through acting, through song, through movement, through color, definitely color, through drawing. They needed to process everything that they're learning to read to make it linearly, so their brain, their three-dimensional brain, would process it and understand it in that linear way. They realized that when they taught the dyslexics this way, when that energy went to the letterbox, which is, I keep pointing here because it's in that part of our brain, the lower left quadrant. So when that words went to the letterbox, it did put them into that linear form and set them in linear form. And then it was able to send that information to the sound and meaning and to other parts of the brain. And then there they were reading. So this is how silentelephante is teaching our children, all of our children, because this is also wonderful. One of the things that they learned, that this whole body, whole child understanding of reading through activity, through creating meaning, through creative activity, is not only good for our dyslexics, it is the best way for every one of our children to learn. When our children learn this way, whether they're dyslexics or not, they create strong neural pathways in their brain for reading and writing and spelling, and they take those neural pathways with them throughout life. They never struggle, and that is the point. They never struggle. They never struggle. There is no vagueness. There's no not understanding what's going on. Everything is concrete. This learning to read, write, and spell together that is so fun and so active and so engaging is what our kids get with phonetic reading with silentelephante. But let's talk about what you get with phonetic reading with silentelephante. And that's going to be part 2. I'm not sure at this very moment how many parts we're going to have, but I'm going to label each of the part deep dive, part 1, 2, 3. So I will see you in part 2 for what do you get